Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. The first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. All right, guys, I am your host, Butch here again this week. And before we jump into the report, we got a really cool opportunity for you. We have partnered with AFCO, and they are offering all of our listeners a free sun protection mask with any purchase of AFCO products. They make a ton of great products for all types of anglers. All you have to do to get the coupon code is text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, folks, we have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up for you this week. But first, let's see who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama saltwater fishing report is brought to you by Sportsman's Marine. Sportsman's Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have AFCO, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vexus lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street legal electric golf cart, go check out their Atric golf carts. Sportsman's Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by CCA Alabama. 30 special tagged redfish will be released inside Alabama coastal waters before the tournament starts on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend and ends on Labor Day, Monday, for 101 days of angling. If CCA does not have a grand prize winner during the tournament, the grand prize will convert into a raffle for all registered anglers. Registration is only $75 and $40 for current CCA members. Sign up now at joincca.org/star tournament. And also, Sam's Stop and Shop. Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Sam's also has tackle experts and podcast contributors Chris Becce and Dusty Hayes on hand to answer any questions you may have about any type of local fishing, and can also repair your rods and reels if necessary. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. All right, folks, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. We have a heavy-hitting show this week. It's good to be back after a 2-week hiatus. I'm here joined with Angelo DePaola as my co-host. What you say, Angelo?
Oh, man, just enjoying this nice hot summer weather, and the fishing seems to be equally as hot.
It is, man. I feel like I enjoyed listening to the show last week. Captain Patrick and Dylan Keene took over for me. They did a great job. They talked to Captain King over there on the Lady Ann. He had a jam up rodeo. They caught a big old blue marlin. I feel like I've had my finger off the pulse. You know what I mean? I'm excited to get back into it. I've been missing it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Excited to hear about my speckled trout. I hadn't heard about them. I've been seeing some triple tail. Hopefully going to talk to Captain Richard. Hopefully he's not tied up on the water, but we'll see. I'm excited to get some reports today. What's going on up there in Orange Beach?
Man, the real estate market's kind of leveled out. Interest rates for the moment have leveled out. And, you know, the fishing's been red hot. I mean, lots of tuna still coming in. Crazy amount of wahoo have been being caught. And the dolphins seem to be pretty thick this year. So, and hell, I even got out and fished last weekend. And getting back out this weekend and fishing again. So,
heck yeah, that's great news. I haven't been offshore very much at all this year, unfortunately. I've been getting to do some, snapper, some nearshore stuff. I guess we did get out and catch some wahoo not too long ago. But yeah, I'm jealous. You're living the dream over there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's worked out this way this year. But I was talking to a friend of mine. And I was like, man, I'm just getting to fish a lot right now. I was like, I'm going over to Louisiana and fishing with him in a couple of days and doing this thing here for the Ladies' Day tournament with the Mobile Big Game Fishing Club. So
that's great.
I mean, it looks like we're going to have good weather again this weekend.
Yeah, it's funny how it works out that way too in spurts. It does for me as well. It seems like some people are, I'll take 2 or 3 or 4 trips in a row, and it seems like that's all I do is fish. And I'll go, but then I'll go a couple months without getting out offshore. So,
oh yeah,
I definitely know what you mean. It's funny how it stacks up like that.
Have you been just wrecking the trout and triple tail? I was over on Mississippi Sound this past Sunday, dude, there was just so much bait.
So much life everywhere. Yeah, there has been a ton, man. I I guess it's been about a week or 10 days. Of course, I was in Orlando all last week for iCast. That was an interesting show. Sounds like pretty much everybody that went has COVID except me and Joe. So that's
Oh, it's
not,
like a guaranteed now.
I
Like,
know. I know. That's what we
uh,
said. It's just going to be the norm, I guess. And everybody gets together and shaking hands. I mean, it's just going to be the norm.
yeah, I mean, I don't think, I don't know. I don't want to get into vaccines and politics. Never mind.
No, let's leave it for fishing for sure. But yeah, I haven't been out in probably 10 or so days, but I'm going on the Escape next weekend for an overnight trip. Hopefully to get some grouper meats and we'll see what all's biting, hope to trap for a sword and a tuna. So
Me and
I'll
you were
be,
supposed to go. I think my wife was asking me, confirming
yeah,
what
that's
we
next
got in
Friday,
August.
August 5, 6. Yeah, that's next weekend.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm fishing so much. I
Hey,
can't believe it.
it's good. You got to
Dude,
make time,
you,
man.
I do the trip this weekend, and you guys next weekend.
Yep.
Then over in Louisiana on the 9th or 10th.
That's awesome. That's the way you got to do it, man. Stack it in. If you don't plan it, you'll never do it.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. All those big triple tail from the rodeo
Oh man,
came
seemed like there was a lot of good stuff waiting at the rodeo.
came from over there. So one
Yeah.
of my buddies has got us hooked up with the preeminent dude over there to go do that. So I'm stoked.
Heck yeah, that'll be fun. I can't wait to get that report from you.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, we got the perspective of the captain last weekend on the giant blue marlin that the Lady Ann caught over Captain Mike's deep sea fishing. And I really wanted to, I talked to Lawrence, the angler, yesterday, and I really just kind of I think he fought the fish for like 6 hours. I've never fought a fish that long. What's your longest?
I'm trying to think. One time I caught down in Mexico, I caught like a 300-pound yellowfin
Whew.
on like a 50 with 60-pound line. I think
Oh
it
my
was like
gosh.
8 hours. Like people were like taking a nap and waking up and like going back and taking another nap. It took so long. It was brutal. My legs were just beat up jello. One time I was on a boat and we caught a big blue, and we hook it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we killed it at 9 a.m. the next morning. It was just, I didn't fight the fish.
Yeah, that's a
But
long
it
time.
was like,
I've been on the boat with some long fights now, 6, 7 hours, I think, but I've never been the angler. So I just I'm curious to get the angler's, just kind of what went through his mind, what he learned, what he would have done different, just kind of get it from his perspective.
well, he was stand up, right?
I'm pretty sure. Can't wait to hear about it.
I mean, like having gone through some like 2 and 3 hour fights on stand up. I mean, dude, that is a lot of pressure on your legs. I've seen
Legs, lower back,
so
all of
many
it.
people tap out.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually was going through some old pictures of me, like a guy literally tapping on the gunnel, tapping me out
Yeah.
the other day.
Yep. I believe it, man. So I'm looking forward to getting that report. Let's go get it from Lawrence. All right, Mr. Lawrence, welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, man. Glad to have you on today.
Hey, awesome, guys. I appreciate you having me on. I listened to King the other day, and I was proud to hear him to give a description of that trip. It was definitely an epic trip.
Absolutely, man. I know you guys have been fishing you fished with, Captain Mike for many, many years. And then, so you've known Captain King forever. And I mean, how many years have you guys been fishing the rodeo on the Lady Ann? 10, 12? It's been a long time.
10 years. And I think King's first year, that was our first year fishing the Lady Ann in the rodeo.
Very cool.
So that was King was just, literally a green, new guy on the deck. And he's evolved into a really good captain, as you can see.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. Very good captain. Very good dude. Well, man, like I said, kind of in the intro to this segment, just kind of wanted to get the angler's perspective on this deal. Like I was just telling Angelo, I've never fought a fish even remotely that long. I know you were on stand-up gear. So just kind of walk us through your setup and just kind of, walk us through your setup and, how the fish hit. And we'll go into the fight a little bit.
Okay. Yep. So, this was mid-morning, kind of when things slow up a little bit, and we had made a move. Water wasn't that cobalt blue. I know everybody talks about that a lot. Anyway, we made one round around the drill ship, and it just happened to be my time on the deck. And what we do is we time our rotation. So I had about 2 minutes left in my rotation, and King just happened to be down there with us, giving his guys a break. And I heard the rigger pop, and there's something about a big fish when that. Rigger pop, that's one thing, but when you hear that rod thud, it's a big fish. And then, of course, line just screaming off of it. So At that point, I've just got an AFCO belt on. Nope, I don't have a harness yet. So the trick was getting the rod out of the rod holder. So once I knew I was pulling the rod out of the holder, that this was just not an average fish. There was no doubt it was a good one. So, the great crew. I mean, the guys, once we kind of settled in, they helped me get my harness on. I get clipped in and everything. And that, that helps. That takes a little bit of the pressure off. But what amazes me is you expend so much energy that first 20 minutes. I mean, your adrenaline's pumping, everything's going. So you're all jacked up, and in previous trips, we've done stand-up tackle and, caught smaller marlin that take 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm settling in thinking, okay, we'll make this thing happen in an hour. And that just was not the case. We actually got the lure in sight probably in 45 minutes, but we couldn't see the fish at that time.
Wow.
And it made several runs from that point forward. And like I said, at that point, you just don't know, and I'll say at the 2-hour mark, that was at my worst. I mean, mentally, physically, we're now at 12:30. This fish hit about 10:25. And
August in Alabama, or July. Sorry,
yeah,
July
August,
in Alabama. Yeah,
absolutely. And you're slowing the boat down. Now you've got really no wind. So yeah, lots going on. You're just losing fluids. As fast as you can just sweat it out, it's leaving you. So I kind of knew that at that point, I had guys bringing me water, bringing me Gatorade, everything, just trying to keep the fluids. I knew that if I got behind the 8-ball, sometimes you can't recover. I mean, you get into that cramping and stuff, and you just can't recover. We couldn't back on this fish a lot. At first, we could to gain. Like that first run, another crazy thing is, I saw the core of the spool. He was fixing to take every bit of the line. I mean, we were that close to him spooling us. And anyway, at that point, they were able to back a good bit, and I kind of got some gains on him. And like I said, next thing you know, we're 2.5 hours in, and I'm feeling it. It's not good.
I bet. And you're right, man. I have noticed that before in the small fights that I've been in. You're right. You get that first adrenaline rush. You're usually having to gain a lot of line pretty quick. So your arm gets wore out, and you try and use your shoulder, then your shoulder gets wore out, and then it's kind of like a fight or flight thing. And then your adrenaline really does kick in. And then it sounds like you kind of got over that adrenaline and settled in. And you're realizing I might be here a while. Like how'd you get through that point mentally and physically? What were some of the things you did mentally and physically to get past that point?
The cool thing with King is he's such a calm. He's very calm. He's standing there just talking, but he's always been that way. And I know he learned a lot from your dad, Captain Mike, and but King's just got that a little different demeanor, and he's just right there in your ear, just kind of coaching you through it. But again, at that 2.5 hour, man, I was down. I was like, I just wasn't feeling it. And then say 30 minutes in after that 3-hour mark, I started kind of really just again settle in. But you talk about breaking. You get all these gains. I'll get this fish below the boat, and he stayed deep pretty much the whole time. Matter of fact, he had jumped a couple more times, and I was starting to think that he was tail wrapped, the way he would just kind of sink in, and just pull line. I thought,
weight.
Possibly tail wrapped. Didn't really know. But so for 2 hours, we would get him under the boat, say 75 feet or so, and he would just let us know that he's still in command. He would that rod would bow over, and he would just strip another 200 yards. Again, staying super deep, and that was demoralizing. Every time you thought, okay, this is the time. This is the time. We're going to get this leader, and he would just turn. And I'm telling you, that happened 40 times probably in that last couple hours.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is always the tough part to me. Is like you think it's about to end, and like you're telling yourself it's a marathon,
right?
And you need to pace yourself, but the reality is it's a sprint, and you don't know where the finish line is,
right?
So, it's one thing to be able to lean back in the harness and take a rest, but when you got to go back and gain all the line, you expend a bunch of energy just to have him do a couple kicks of the tail,
take it all back out again.
What was that like for you? You never fought a fish for that long.
The only other marlin I've caught was on the Lady Ann. It's been several years ago. Matter of fact, I think you have the picture, Butch. It's the one where the fish is completely out of the water.
Yep.
A smaller fish, but I was on the 80 wide, and I was sitting in a chair, literally 9 minutes to the boat. King leaders him, fish goes crazy, super green. So that's really the only experience I've had as far as me hooking up with a marlin. Now I've been involved in several, again, that took maybe an hour. Again, hour in the chair, totally different ball game. You could put a lot more pressure on the fish.
Yeah.
Not to minimize it, it's just different.
It is way different. There's pros and cons to both for sure. Like Angelo was saying, you can sit back in that harness. You can definitely use your legs a lot more in the chair. I feel like as far as leverage goes, as far as little tips and tricks, we always like to leave our listeners with a little bit of more knowledge of what they came here with. Like, what were some of the tricks? Wider feet, leaning back more. Were you saying, all right, just 8 more inches, or were you locking your legs under the gunnel? Like, what was your main stance?
Yes.
What got you to the finish line?
Totally wide base, absolutely. And I've done some weight training, so some of that really paid off. I haven't done enough recently, but just going back to that muscle memory, staying wide and staying pushed. I pretty much locked myself into the gunnel for a good portion of the day.
Yeah.
We had to make a couple of moves. That was uncomfortable, moving from one side of the deck to the other. There were times where one of the guys said, "Hey, at the 2.5 hour mark, I thought you were fixing to buckle and we were going to lose you." I don't really remember that, but it's another guy's perspective. But again, I think the biggest thing is trying to get over that first rush and just calm down. I mean, it's so hard to tell somebody that you're excited, you're in a hurry to get that fish, you want the points, but you just got to slow it down. And we had other stuff going on. We noticed about 3 hours in the line, we had a little ball of frayed line, like in the third roller.
Oh no.
So I may have gotten off center a little bit, that line rubbing somewhere. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, all this bad stuff.
Right.
You're thinking of all the bad things that can happen. Any minute that 60-pound test line's fixing to pop.
Yeah.
So what were you on, a 50 with 60-pound line?
Yep.
Wow, man. So
I've been there.
How long did it end up taking you, and what was the final weight guesstimate?
I think we nailed it at about 5:45 on the time. I've seen 354. I've seen big fish at the boat side, but this was another level. I mean, this fish was clearly, in the water was so green you couldn't really see him. There were moments you could see him good, but he was clearly, in my mind, I'm thinking well over 600 pounds. I don't know how to guesstimate at that point, but he was so much thicker than the fish that we've seen before. The bait, like back towards his tail, that area, King noticed how big around the circumference was there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see the fish that we've caught before at that 5 hour and 45 minute mark having that much power left. I mean, he had so much power when he came to the top. I told my wife, "Hey, this fish just came to see who was on the other end of the stick," and he was letting me know he's still in control, because that's exactly. I mean, he just left us, and that was it.
Wait, one other question, because y'all sound like y'all fish a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you eating this weekend? Anything good?
Man, I've had vermilion snapper, I've had red grouper, I've had the whole gauntlet. I mean, we had a great bottom fishing trip on the way in. I even made a comeback that next morning and surprisingly was able to get out there and catch some scamp and red grouper. And again, can't thank King, Captain Mike's group. I mean, all of those guys are first class. And my team, I mean, we've been fishing together for 20 plus years, 10 on the Lady Ann. And everybody stepped up. Everybody had a part, and they just kept the pickle juice coming. That's another thing, man. Pickle juice, absolute must to get through some of the cramps.
Oh, man.
Yeah, very cool story, man. And you're right. It is teamwork. Everybody gets in, clears the lines, and everybody has a purpose for sure, man.
Yep.
All right, Lawrence. We appreciate it, man. Thanks for giving us Thanks for giving our listeners a story. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break and check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoon boats, to bigger bay boats and offshore hybrids. L&M Marine LLC prides itself on its customer service and knows how important it is to have someone you can trust and to be taken care of. They are locally owned and regularly support the community. L&M Marine provides superior customer service and has an entire team that consists of professional sales members, finance experts, service technicians, and a knowledgeable parts and accessory staff to support you. Go visit their friendly, reliable, and experienced staff staff, now located only 6 miles north of I-10 at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or give them a call at 251-937-1380. And also brought to you by American Fishing Tackle Company. AFCO's fishing clothing is designed to handle the harshest elements. From cold tournament mornings to the humid summers of Florida, their products are built to handle the extreme. They're proud to hear customer stories about the 20-plus year-long life cycle of their AFCO products. Their passion for the outdoors goes beyond their products. They're committed to protecting their fishing resources and angler rights. Through their 10% pledge to protect and conserve, your purchase of any AFCO product directly supports conservation initiatives. Visit aftco.com. That's AFTCO.com to learn more. All right, Angelo, that was a cool segment, man. I think it's always cool to see the different perspectives on the different ends of the spectrum, behind the throttles and then behind the deck. So that was good to hear from Lawrence. Let's sit down and get our next report, man. Let's see what Captain Richard Rutland's doing. I know he's been all over the Gulf. He's been inshore, near shore, and offshore. What you say, Captain Blood?
Butch, Daddy, Angelina, what y'all doing, boys?
Angeliners.
Not wrecking them like you are.
No doubt, man.
I mean,
Well, hey, it's easy for me to say when I go every day, but I will tell you this, I don't wreck them every day, okay?
That's right.
I'm still human. I know everybody thinks I'm not, but yes, I'm still human. I do have bad days.
That's right. Your chances of having more good days, the more you spend out there, definitely are increased.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep, that's how it goes. And it's funny how that goes one day to the next, you know. This time of year, I always kind of attribute bad days usually for me are usually like kind of centered around weather. You know what I mean? We've had a lot of early morning thunderstorms and stuff down here around Dauphin Island and Mississippi Sound, you know, and you kind of get chased around. You don't get to go right where you want to go. And I always feel like I kind of get boxed in from time to time, and you got to spend most of your morning right in one little area when you want to go all the way down to Grand Bay and Mississippi Sound, but you got to stay over here by the bridge or by the east end of Dauphin Island or get kind of stuck in the bay, something like that, and vice versa. So, but inshore fishing has been great. It's really held up well. I've seen it a lot of years when we get to this real hot part of the summer into July, first part of August. And the speckled trout fishing, red fishing will get kind of tough, and you gotta depend on like your blackfish and things like that to kind of help save your trip, man. But it's been a great action packed into the summer for me.
Let's talk about those speckled trout a little bit. You guys still having success in shallower? You know, we usually call 4 to 8 feet probably a shallow, or
yeah.
What you've been seeing? You've been doing any deep water stuff, or what's going on in that region?
A little bit of both. I kind of spent some time in the bay last week and did not do that great. Of course, we were kind of on the nip tide last week, kind of towards the latter part of the week, and didn't have a lot of success out there. It was real funny. It was like one morning you go out there and start in the bay and get 0 bites whatsoever, and then couple days later you go out there and get chewed up by ladyfish and catfish and things of that nature, bluefish, things of that nature, you know. So it's kind of funny how much that it just kind of tells you how much that tide always affects those fish.
Oh yeah.
All fish, you know, even your trash fish, you know, it shuts them down sometimes too when you don't have that good water movement out there. But yes, to answer your question, the shallow water bite has remained really good. I've had some really good trips fishing shallow around oyster shells and stuff, and getting it done a lot of times all on artificial, sticking with that voodoo shrimp and a popping cork, and then of course live shrimp when you need to use them all. You know, live bait these days is it's like crack cocaine, you know what I mean? You don't want to use it all up at one time, you know what I mean? So you gotta so anyway, I've been kind of doing a mix of both whenever I'm getting out there and seeing what they're hitting on, and if they're gonna eat the artificial, that's what I'm putting on.
Yeah, heck yeah, crack
Richard,
might be cheaper.
do you ever cast net pogies and elwads and stuff? Is that, I mean, this time of year?
Yeah, I did. Speaking of cast netting, I did that this morning. I cast netted a bunch of pogies And we actually got lucky on that. We caught a bunch of croakers and some white trout mixed in, and we took them offshore out to the ships and did real good on cobia this morning. So, but yeah, as far as the inshore side goes, like for speckled trout and redfish, I don't really use pogies a whole lot for that genre of fishing, if you want to call it that. But there's bait is very plentiful if you want to use a cast net right now.
That's a great way to do it for sure. Were you guys seeing those ling or fishing down deep? Any tips there?
Both. We pulled up to the first ship today, and had two fish like swim right out to the boat, threw pogies at them, and
that's how I like it.
Both up. Yeah, it was like the first two baits in the water yielded two fish. It was about as quick as you could absolutely do it. And I wouldn't say it was wide open by any means, but we did have a really good day out there. I kind of had to cut my guys off after we started putting fish in the white earthworm today. So hey, we got enough fish.
That's
guys.
enough.
We don't
right?
need to kill any more, and we caught 2 or 3 more after that, and then came on inshore and started looking for some triple tail, and had a fair amount of success with that. Man, those blackfish have been super spooky this year.
That's interesting. I wonder what I was actually trying to put together a little trip yesterday afternoon. Like I said, I was out of town all week last week, so I hadn't really done much fishing. I was a little worried about all the rain making the bay muddy, and it kind of kept me off the water. Was that a bad move? I mean, does that affect triple tail very much?
Yeah, that's totally a bad move. There's a pile of fish, and I'm actually catching them better in dirty water than I'm in clear water right now.
Let's talk about triple tail a little more. I know we have gone in depth on it before. What are your 3 favorite methods for catching those dudes?
Man,
if you were going, what would you do?
Well, it's always situational for me. You know what I mean? So, and that comes with my client as well. If I have a guy call me up, have a client call me up and say, hey, look, all I want to do is chase blackfish all day. I'm gonna have a multitude of things rigged up. I'm gonna have a popping cork with a real short leader and a kale hook tied on, and I say short leader, probably like a 12 to 14-inch leader, something like that, something real short. So if I see a fish like on a fat or a crab pot or something of that nature, I like to use that. I'm definitely gonna have a free line rigged up, to throw like a live shrimp or a live croaker or something of that nature at a fish. And then I'm gonna have a slip cork rig for fishing channel marker buoys and pilings and things of that nature, where we'll take our time. And I always like to kind of start shallow on my slip cork and kind of work my way on down. I'll start, you and I had a great trip last year where we did a bunch of slip cork fishing, and you saw I always start shallow, like 1.5 feet, 2 foot down to the weight, and make a couple drifts past whichever structure, like I said, a piling or a channel marker, and then I'm gonna go down 1 foot or 2, 1.5 feet or 2, and make a couple more drifts, and then work my way on down, depending on the water depth. I'll work my way on down to the bottom. Now, where I'm out in the ship channel, I'm not going to work my way down to 50 foot of water,
right?
Obviously, but when you're in 15 foot or less, I'll work it all the way down to the bottom.
And then, making 2 or 3 casts at each increment.
Yep, that's right. Yep, 2 or 3 drifts is usually about what I do, and man, for the most part, for me, when you're doing that, like, what I call blind fishing, when you're blind fishing buoys and channel markers, man, most of the time when you get around with those things, the fish usually show themselves pretty quickly. You know what I mean? You'll usually kind of flip the cork up there, make a drift, and a drift or 2, and the fish will sometimes roll up, and you can adjust your depth to get it in front of them and whatnot. But it usually happens pretty quick. And that's what I always say too about fishing ships. When you go ling fishing, when you get out there and start I'm like a big anchor chain, and I mean, they're either on the chain or they're on the screws, is what I always say, and it usually happens pretty quick. You're not going to sit there and fish for 30 minutes and then get a bite. It's usually going to happen within the first 5 minutes of a free line and a pogie, or or putting one on like a down, like a down, what I call a down rod, which is basically just a sow rig for red snapper. Same thing, or using a knocker rig. We actually caught two nice fish on knocker rigs today out there. So
I like a knocker rig.
oh yeah, it happens pretty quick when it does happen. It happens pretty quick, both ways. Blackfish and ling. I generally think about those two species. I target them both a lot the same way.
So knocker rig, meaning if my definition is the same as yours, just a slip lead straight on your line to your hook, right? And you're just kind of bouncing that down.
Yep, right to your hook. Yep, and I just always use the lightest means necessary to get your bait down. Is what I always kind of say. If the current's ripping, you're going to want to use like a 6 or an 8 ounce lead. If it's real light, as little as 2 to 4 ounces of lead on right down on your hook. I use a circle hook, about a 5, anywhere from a 5 to a 7/0 circle hook, depending on the size of my bait. And I pretty much drop it all the way to the bottom, and then just kind of almost like slow pitch jigging, just kind of pick your rod tip way up over your head, and then let it flutter back down, reel up some slack, pick it up again, and just kind of work the whole water column all the way back up to the boat.
Richard, you'd mentioned like you were catching them in muddy water earlier, and I've talked to guys and they've talked about the salinity levels that do you ever notice like if you could get too salty of a water and you don't catch fish, or obviously I feel like freshwater definitely there, you got a bunch of water hyacinth around that does not seem to be a good place to fish for them. But do you find that too much salt is also adversely affects the fishing?
I wouldn't. It's like when it relates to blackfish. Just when you said that, it jogged my memory and it made me think about maybe about 2 years ago. This time we had maybe a tropical storm or something come through and dump a bunch of upstate rain and flood the bay out with a bunch of muddy water. And I remember running through the bay and seeing that hyacinth and that stuff float down and still catching fish underneath it. And to me, it's actually almost a little easier to spot them when they're free swimming or under some structure when the water's a little bit off color versus when it's gin clear. They seem to poke out. They seem to poke out like a sore thumb almost in that dirtier water, So for whatever that's, I know that seems like that's bass backwards, obviously, you know what I mean. But they poke out like sore thumbs in that dirtier water, Now, of course, you don't get the scope. You don't get to see down underneath the structure quite like you do when it's clear. But when they're laying up on top, it's a lot. They just, like I said, they poke out like a sore thumb. It looks like a black or a white trash bag that you get from a convenience store, is what they kind of look like in the water to me. That's what I've got my eyes peeled for.
Yep, definitely, man. I know you like Bahio. I just got a pair of the green lenses, and I'm excited to try them around here. The ones that I have experience with are the blue for offshore, the Trevally lenses, and then the drum, the red ones that I have, and I love them for this. What do you like for your ling and triple tail whenever you're doing sight fishing? Do you have a lens color preference?
Man, I'm a amber lens, green mirror guy is what I like. I got a couple of pairs on my horizon. And I'm going to definitely toy with I really like those rose-colored ones that you have.
I like them a lot.
That you've been wearing. I'm going to get some of those because I think that's going to help for like some low light conditions, because you start going black fishing sometimes and it's cloudy out and whatnot. That rose is really going to make everything pop a lot. So
yep.
I'm definitely looking forward to those, but just generally inshore around our area, best color for me has been amber with the green mirror. When you go offshore, charcoal with the blue mirror is really good. And then, like I said, those low light conditions, I think those rose colored ones that you've been sporting, and Captain, I'll say Captain D, Dr. Dillon. Yep. Over there at the Sea Lab, he's been rocking those rose colors ones as well and loves them. So, man, they make such a great product, man. Just so impressed with that, with Bahio.
Yeah, they won. I believe it was best eyewear again at ICAST this year, so that was cool to see. Congratulations to them.
Oh yeah, it doesn't that's not surprising to me at all.
No, great product, man. Well, we've gone inshore. I know you did some offshore fishing too. Let's talk about that a little bit. What'd you do out in the deep blue?
Man, I got to do something special on Saturday. I got to take my wife and my 2 little girls and a bunch of our friends fishing. I've never gotten a chance to take my wife and my little girl way offshore. We ran way out to the Photonis ditch out there and made 2 drops for swordfish and hooked up both times and ended up 1 for 2 on swordfish. We caught a little pup and got him up there and got him unhooked and made a nice release, a little bit short for a keeper fish, and then pulled the hook on our next one. And that was almost instantaneous. You know what I mean? As soon as we hit the bottom and got the sacrificial weight off, boom, we were getting bit. I didn't hear a lot of chatter on the radio. I don't know if anybody else did any good out there on Saturday when I was out there, but that was a lot of fun. Tons of life out there. You know, we saw flying fish all over the place. There, of course, the Blue Marlin Grand Championship was happening last weekend. We saw tons of boats trolling around in the area out there around the Photonis rig and up there right along the shelf. And so we did pull some wahoo baits. Never got bit on that, but man, there was just tons of life out there. I think we had the little bit of bottom fishing we did on the way home. We had 6 scamp, box full of beeliners, white snapper, red snapper. I think it's either Dylan or Tanner caught a big eye snapper. If you've never seen one of those, that's a pretty cool looking fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And but tons of life everywhere out there. Really great trip.
Awesome, man. I know Angelo was out there Friday night, so you were out there the next day. There was no moon, right, Angelo? What'd you guys see on the swords?
Well, we went out Friday afternoon and went to FAD number 1. The water was bluer to the east than it was to the west. Nice current, but not as much bait. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest differentiators that I noticed was a few weeks when we were out, there were all these little, I don't know, they weren't glass minnows, but I mean, they were clear. They were probably a 1/2 inch long and just skinny. And I mean, everything was eating them. The hardtails were eating them, the tunas, the blackfins, the bonitas, everything was eating them. They weren't out there this weekend. I mean, you could just look off the side of the boat and they'd be swimming around the boat. And so there just wasn't as much bait. We saw a little billfish just milling around, put bait in front of him 5 times, could not get a bite.
Jeez.
Worked our way over towards the eastern side of the spur, just kind of decided, hey, we'll just get over the top of Magic Mountain. And the current was drifting south to north, and we would just drift back to the north. About 11 o'clock, we got a bite. You know, on a full moon, your swordfish bites tend to happen deeper because you have more light penetration in the water. And so the plankton that may work their way up from the bottom, they settle in a little bit deeper. So with no moon, you know, instead of fishing one at 100, one at 200, one at 300, we tend to fish 200, 150, or, you know, so you have a bait of 100, you know, you have your tip rod's usually 50 feet underneath the boat. And so we did that. And the one at 100 gets bit. Normal swordfish bite ends up being a shark. Immediately putting the baits back in the water, catch another shark. So we reposition, kind of get back over the top of Magic Mountain. And then this time we say, you know what, let's do 300, 200, and 100 on the baits. And so we're moving the 300 bait, and it just gets hammered by a UFO, and we had tackle failure, and line just breaks at the crimp.
Dang.
So I'll put that on me. I overcrimped. It's the only thing I can figure. I mean, it sucks when it's you, Angelo, you know?
Well, let me tell you something, Angelo. If you hadn't overcrimped or broken off a fish, you're not fishing enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just kind of what that comes down to, man. That's just daggum fishing right there, you know, and that it's always a heartbreaker. And I tell you what, nothing in the world makes me madder than when you break a fish off or lose a fish or or whatever it is, man. But that's just fishing. You know what I mean? That's
Oh.
just absolute fishing. And it always just re-energizes me to tune everything up. You know what I mean? Just to take your time a little bit more, make sure you got all your ducks in a row, and take all the precaution that you can to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, I don't know about you. Is that the same for both of y'all?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, anything we could pick up from that? Like what would you have done differently, Angelo?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things, I had all these leaders that I just kind of like I'd used before, and I just clipped the hooks off so they already had the loop in them, so I could just crimp a new hook back on. I mean, this thing was probably a couple years old, and it had the aluminum crimp on it, and it was, you could have it a little corrosion. I'm not sure if that's what did it or if it was over crimping. I mean, you know what? Sometimes you get in a rush and you just crimp something on.
Long story short is you should have redone the whole leader.
I should have redone the whole leader and used, it just was, it sucks when it's you and you've got to follow the sword. Like, you lose a fish, you pull a hook, you get a nick in your line, it just breaks randomly. You're like, you know what? There's nothing we can do about that. But when it's you, you're like, oh my God. It was a little bit of a bummer. So, I don't know. That was a big fish. It brought us 3/4 of the way into a 50 wide on its initial run. I don't know. I don't have no clue what it was. It took off like a freight train. Swordfish usually don't do that, but sharks
since you
usually
lost
don't.
it definitely was a big shark. It wouldn't have been a big sword. You can't lose a big shark.
I mean, that's what I'm going to tell myself. Sharks usually don't peel off that much line that quick, though. So you never know. If I had a guess,
hey, well, Angelo, that made me think about something, man. What's your thought process on this is like a big discussion that I've seen on the internet on some of these swordfish groups and stuff. A lot of everybody's getting into this daytime sword fishing thing, and there's a bunch of people that say, hey, 18 pounds of drag is the perfect number, and then other people are like, man, put the heat on them and keep it as tight as you can, upwards of 20 pounds of drag and whatnot, and then you've got some folks will say, man, when you get hooked up, the fish is making a big run, back off of it a little bit and just let them swim down where they're going to stop and then, reset and go on. What do you do? I'm a consistency guy. For me, I put it at 18 pounds and that's where I leave it. And of course, I've never gotten into one of these 6 to 8 hour fights on one of these fish, but I could see where the tendency would be, later in the fight to go, pick up on the drag a little bit and keep the hook glued in there and whip them on back to the boat. What's your thought process on that?
I mean, my strike is anywhere from 24 to 28 pounds. I fish.
So you like heavy drag then?
I mean, if you're going to lose them, you're going to either lose them quick.
That's what I was about to say. There's two ways of thought here, and you're either one as an angler, you're either one or the other. I feel like.
And look, the thing is the bite windows are generally pretty tight sometimes. Sometimes you get there and they're biting all day or they're biting all night. But rarely that's the case. What I find is your bite windows 2 to 4 hours where they're really chewing good. So you hook a good fish and you fight them for 3 hours, and just to pull them off at the boat when somebody grabs the leader or just, randomly lose it after because you just don't have enough drag. The other thing is, I fish J hooks. I find you don't chafe the fish off.
No.
Most of the time I'd say half the time they're gut hooked. So you can just put a bunch of drag on them. I don't know what everybody else uses for leader, but I'm a 300-pound mono guy. There's not they're like a triple tail. They just about eat anything and they don't care how big the leader is.
No. I'd rather put the wood to him and get it over with. We're either going to bring him in or we're going to lose him quick.
That fish had a ton of drag. The guy that was what happened was I asked the guy to move the rod from one rod holder up towards the front of the boat, and right as he was about to stick it in the rod holder, it just got hammered. So, I fish my nighttime baits at about 12 pounds of drag. So, we double that drag when we go to 24. And when he moved it up to there, and as your spool gets smaller, your drag gets harder.
You're supposed to loosen it as the spool gets smaller.
Oh,
right?
I mean, like the guy that we eventually put on the rod, he was like, "Holy cow, man!"
Yeah.
And he just kind of like he couldn't believe how tight the drag was, and he went to like tink it like a guitar string, and right when he did it, it broke. Like it was just
Lord,
bad luck. So that was kind of like the rest of the night was pretty uneventful. We caught a little triple tail, swam between the motors when we woke up in the morning. So he got a ride home. And then the next day we fished fads 7, 8, 5 and 6 are gone, and 3 and 4. And like, I mean, dude, there were so many boats out there. There was a limited tournament.
There was a bunch of tournaments.
There was the Grand Championship, and there was just like boats from everywhere. Like on the way back in, my buddy was like, what's the most weirdest thing you saw today? I was like, man, there was that one boat that like had their washdown hose just spraying sideways off their transom into the water the whole day. And like the only thing I could figure is they like saw one of those YouTube videos where people are like cane pulling tunas. And so that must have been like the thing they were going for. We saw a boat
that does look like fun, by the way.
That does look like fun.
We saw one boat that was, it looked like the guy was just fishing by himself. He was next to us for 30 minutes. We never saw another guy in the boat. And then we saw an Everglades. I mean, like, to me, no offense if you own an Everglades, but like the offshore Everglades is like a fishing boat, but not a fishing boat. So the guys that have them really aren't great fishermen a lot of times. And this guy had about 10 spinning rods. It looked like some Zebcos. He didn't have his outriggers out, and he was only trolling 2 rods. I mean, like all the effort. He had like 9 people on the boat. It just was so weird. Like you don't see that. Like I wonder what he thought. Like, man, what are these big long sticks coming out of the side of everybody's boat? So, anyways, needless to say, it was slow. We live baited. We had a gazillion cigar minnows and thread fins. We trolled. We live baited with bonitas and giant hardtails. And it was just the fads were dead. There was no fish out there on them. And we ran back to the elbow, and just like Richard was saying, there's like nice, like a blended blue-green, like a really clean piece of water with some current in it over there. Lots of flyers. I didn't see any bonitas or anything, which, I mean, flyers to me are not a really great indicator of whether an area is going to be fishy. We got lucky. We caught a sailfish. We had a wahoo cut us off. Another boat I know fought something for about an hour next to us. But I'll tell you, where the fish were caught, a friend of ours went to the Squiggles, found a really nice, just a foam push, caught a bunch of nice dolphin, caught some nice wahoo, had a white marlin. I sent a buddy of mine back out there on Monday. He caught a sailfish, and they had probably another dolphin about 35, one about 20. And I don't know, maybe another 10, 20 of those like super chickens, those like 4 to 8 pound.
Those are turkeys, a little bigger than
turkey dolphin. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say it was on fire in close. I mean, the guys that fished the Grand Championship, I mean, Devin Potts had 7
he
blues.
smashed it, man. I know. I texted him earlier. I'd like to get that report. Maybe next week we'll be able to pick his brain on that. But yeah, they smashed it. There's a lot of marlin caught this week.
Oh yeah, I mean, Chris Hood, who won the Killfish, also. I mean, I think they had 4 or 5 tags. There's a bunch of fish tagged, and like there was 3-4 boats that all had 5 fish. So, I mean, the fishing seems to be good. You know, I can tell you, I had a friend that ran to Green Canyon. I don't think those fish were caught over there. They didn't catch anything. They caught 1 blue marlin for a weekend in Green Canyon. So I think everything was kind of east of the river, Delta House, Mars, Neptune, that area.
Very cool. Very good report, man. What else did you see out there, Captain Richard? Anything pique your interest whenever you were sword fishing or scamp fishing?
The scamp, we had the most success. I had some beautiful live bait on my charter on Friday before we went out there. I had a kid who was just I had a 10-year-old kid who was just absolutely ate up with fishing. It was so much fun to have him on, but he looked like he was a NASCAR driver on the boat, man. He was like just running laps around the damn around the console all day. You know what I mean? He was awesome. So much fun to have on the boat. but anyway, we caught a bunch of fish. I said, hey, man, y'all care if we try to catch a little bait from my offshore trip tomorrow? They're like, oh yeah, that's fine, and so I did like a little chicken rig with like some little brim hooks and some fish bites, and we wore out the croakers and took some bunch of beautiful croakers offshore, and didn't get the first bite on them. Fishing over that natural bottom, everything, all the scamp that we caught except for one we caught on a croaker, everything came off of a slow pitch jig. They love the jigs. That's what they wanted. With some of those wacky looking Tanner D's came with us, and Tanner had a bunch of these wacky looking colored jigs, and him and Dylan were getting after it on that slow pitch, and that was the ticket on the scamps. We caught some nice ones. Like I said, I think we had 6 scamp. All of them keeper size up to about 14 pounds or so.
That's my favorite.
Oh yeah, yep, it was great. But the jigging seemed to be the trick.
I like jigging for scamp a lot, man. I've had a lot of success with just a diamond jig, even just for those scamp.
Oh yeah.
Any particular color or I'm kind of there's a bajillion options out there for the quote slow pitch jig. I mean, there's a bunch of long and skinny ones, there's flat ones, there's ones that are just crazy shapes. Any particular shape or color that they were hitting on that you noticed?
I want to say Tanner was using one, I'll say it looked like cotton candy. It had like a blue and a red. Like a baby blue and red and white mixed in that he did good on. And then the other one I remember him reeling up 2 or 3 fish on was almost copper and silver colored, real long, skinny, like it was a 12-inch long jig, like a little bit heavier. And he just sat there and he'd drop it and hit the bottom and then jig it up and all the way up over his head and let it flutter back down and then jig it up again, as we were making some drifts over some of that natural bottom, and man, that was, like I said, that was the damn ticket.
That's awesome, man. That's a great offshore report and a great inshore report. If people want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Cap?
Yep, check us out on coldbloodedfishing.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram. You can reach us that way and look up my contact info and give me a holler, and I'll give you my dates.
Awesome, man. We appreciate the reports. As always, we look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to hearing from you next time, man. You guys be safe out there, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, boys. Thank y'all, man. Y'all have a good show.
All right, guys, that was a really cool segment. We kind of combined the inshore and offshore report there. That segment was brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available at select restaurants. They can also be purchased by the public at Bonsecore Fisheries, Inc. and Ahi Seafood in Fairhope, Alabama. Call for availability. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. And also brought to you by Ricciardone Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Ricciardone. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Do not let an achy tooth ruin a day on the water. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672. All right, Angelo, let's head on down and get our inshore kayak report. Let's see what Captain Scott Kennedy's up to with the Whistling Waters Kayak Fishing and Outdoors. Welcome back to the show, Captain Scott. How are we doing today, buddy?
What's up, guys? I'm doing good. Glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, man, it is beautiful today. We finally got a little bit of seems like there's been some thunderstorms kind of every morning. What you guys been seeing over there?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. We've definitely been dodging them, but if you can dodge the storms, there's definitely a few fish to be caught out there this past week. So it's kept us on our toes, especially in the kayak, not being able to kind of hop up on the engine and outrun them. So we've been kind of having to pick and choose the launch locations. But yeah, it's the days we have been able to get out, it's definitely been good to us.
Awesome, man. What you guys been targeting? What's been making your charters? What you been getting into?
I tell you, the big star of the past week has been going for some Alabama sleigh rides, hooking into these big old Jack Crevalle. It is that time of the year where they are moving up in the shallows and they are active. It has been, I have a lot of luck with them in the previous years this time of year, but it seems like this year has been just kind of off the charts good for us. Every trip I've done the past week and a half, even maybe even longer, we have found, big schools of hungry jack crevalle feeding on the surface. And it's been kind of weird. I've actually seen them several mornings, this morning included, kind of like almost tailing up in the shallows. We're kind of where I've been focusing in on them is, anywhere from, 1.5 feet to 3 feet deep. And these fish are actually kind of up on the surface. And a few mornings, how I found them is seeing, that sickle fin kind of sticking out of the water, just cruising. So that has been extremely fun. And then, past that, besides seeing them kind of tailing those shallows, when you see them busting those big schools of mullet and pogies and everything, it's, it's like somebody throwing cinder blocks in the water. So we have definitely spent the first half of our trips in the mornings chasing those guys around. And anybody that catches one, period, or, especially out of the kayak, will tell you they are a hoot. And especially, in those kayaks, they tow us around a good bit. So it is a whole lot of fun to catch those from the kayaks.
Scott, are you on the front beach or back in the bay? Like, where are you fishing?
Yeah, so I've been sticking, kind of towards Mobile Bay area. I like to hang towards kind of the southern end of the bay, but they have moved up, shallow water inside the bay, like around, I've seen a lot of guys talking around Dauphin Island running into them, Fort Morgan, even up towards like Fairhope and stuff, just kind of running into the schools of them. It is one of those things you kind of got to be in the right place at the right time. But I have noticed if you can find a high tide or, high tide right at sunrise or kind of a just the start of the falling tide, anywhere that you have like a tidal river or a tidal creek, there it seemed to be a big school of them or, even multiple schools a lot of the mornings hanging around the mouths of those tidal creeks and rivers.
Man, that sounds fun. Two questions pop into my head in that scenario is you're obviously sight fishing these fish. How are you approaching those schools to be successful? And what bait and how are you presenting it?
As far as approaching them, we do get a little spoiled in the kayaks. We don't have the engine noise or anything. So we literally just charge them down. We run them down and try to get as close to the school as we can. Yeah. I had a kid this morning, he was 15 and one of his first few times getting out in the kayaks in the salt water. And he ended up hooking one. That thing couldn't have been further than 4 feet from his kayak. And I mean, we literally had the school right underneath us. And it was a little chaotic trying to, I'm sitting there trying to explain where he needs to cast. And all of a sudden one rolls like on his kayak. And I'm like, yeah, just drop it in the water.
Just get it in the water.
Sure enough, he pitched it out maybe 5 or 10 yards. And I mean, just instantly just got smoked. So we get spoiled. I did have one morning a couple days ago where some boats came in and they tried to kind of charge in on them like we did. And I noticed they did push them back out into the deeper water. So that, it is the engine noise definitely does kind of spook them. But I feel like if you can, coast in on them or, like I said, with us being in the kayaks, we just cruise right up on them and just get right in the middle of them. But as far as bait, I tell you, I've caught them on a lot this week. I've caught them on, the one knocker spooks. The main thing I've been throwing is the Miradyne XL, and that has been good to me. We've caught them on, just like imitation mullet swim baits. We've caught them on, the smaller Miradynes. And to be honest, I honestly think when they get to school enough like that and they're on the surface, I'm pretty sure you could just throw a chicken nugget into the middle of them and probably hook one. Because when they're dog packing like that, I mean, they are just hungry, eating anything that moves in their face. So
yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, for me, the bait isn't a huge factor. Like I said, I do like those Miradynes or the one knockers, but like I said, I think anything would get trigger a bite from them.
So throwing a Miradyne or something like that, I mean, that's a pretty light bait. I was going to ask you what your ideal rod and reel setup is. What are you running? Those things are no joke, though. Like you say, Alabama sleigh ride, that's no joke. They will drag you around.
Yeah, they definitely pull, and they're one of those fish that do not give up. But the rod and reel that I've got right now that I'm kind of stuck on is I like the about a 7.6 rod, maybe an 8-foot max, and I'm using kind of a medium heavy. It's the Fenwick HMG inshore. And on that, I've got a 4,500 pin slammer, and I think I've got like 30-pound braid on that, and then I'll run, a 50-pound mono leader on top of that, just so I can, get away with tugging on them a little bit extra. But I think anywhere, we actually, one guy 2 days ago caught one on a 2,500. It towed him around for he was tied into that fish for probably 20, 25 minutes. He had a lot more patience for reeling that thing in than I think I might have. But I mean, he got it in. But it seems like with those, that 4,000 to 5,000 size rod, 4,000 to 5,000 size reel and the heavier rod, you can work them into you a little bit. And a lot of times what happens in the kayaks is we wind up, reeling ourselves to the fish rather than reeling the fish to ourselves. And, it seems like the quicker you get done with that fight, they've got a lot more energy left in them. So when you go to release them and everything, you don't have to worry about that fish trying to turn belly up on you or anything like that.
Yep.
Any bycatch while you're fishing for jacks?
Yeah. There's definitely bycatch, but it's not necessarily good bycatch. We do find, at least what I've noticed, there usually seems to be just as big of a school of gaff top sailcats running behind those jacks as big as the jack school itself. So if you do get behind the school of jacks, I've noticed that you're going to pick up a big old sailcat, which is, I guess they'll fight you a little bit, but it's definitely not what I'm after. And, we've been picking up some big ladyfish and stuff in the mix too, but it's, try to avoid that as much as possible by, like I said, just getting right in the middle of those schools of them.
Snot sharks. That's what Captain Bobby calls those, gaff tops, snot sharks.
Yeah, I would, that is definitely true, because anybody that's caught one and looked at their line after the fact would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
You're saying like kind of an early morning deal. If, somebody goes out with you, what's that trip look like?
Yeah, so when I'm talking early morning, we're getting out there like crack of dawn. This week we've been meeting, a little bit before 6. That way we can hit the water, right at, 5:45, 6 o'clock, right at that, first sliver of light. I've noticed, I'm sure the guys that can get out there and a little further in the bay are probably being able to, pick up on them all day. But what I've noticed is these fish that are up in the shallows and these, kind of tight areas is, a good day where you have overcast and a good high tide, you may get, 2 hours max of them, kind of running, pushing the surface and doing what you want them to do.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of days, even, like this morning, for instance, we had about probably about a 45 to an hour, 45 minute to an hour window where we're able to chase them down and everything. And, got hooked into a few. And then once they kind of calmed down, we had to move on to other things. But if you can get out there right at, makes for an early morning, especially if you have to drive a little bit. But you will not regret getting out there as early as possible.
And getting off the water before it gets 150, I would have to imagine.
I like it.
Yeah, that is another.
It's got to be a factor as well. Yeah.
Sitting in those kayaks, especially mine, it's kind of a darker color. It's like a dark green camo color, and it's like sitting in a frying pan past 9 or 10 o'clock. It's definitely gets warm. So that's another bonus to getting out there early.
What about redfish?
I tell you, the redfish fight for me has been, we've been catching them, but it seems like it's been a little bit off for me here lately. And I think part of that might be that I haven't necessarily been fishing for them as hard.
Right.
We've been picking up, them up a few here and there. But what I've spent a lot of my time, after we kind of tear away from the jacks, past 2 weeks and even like the past 5 days in particular, the flounder bite has been the best I've had in a long time. So I've kind of, we try for the speckled trout a little bit, and we try for the redfish, but I have been spending most of my time lately flounder fishing, and the redfish has kind of come along with that as a bycatch, really. But
yeah,
we've been catching some reds, like I said, and the ones we have caught have all been pretty good sized ones. Kind of that upper mid to upper slot, anywhere from 22 to 25, 26 inches. But yeah, I mean, I honestly can't get away from the flounder right now. That's just been a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, that's a fantastic fish to catch and obviously eat. They're delicious. Has that been more of you targeting structure, rocks, or is that more of a marsh bite you've been finding over there? And what have those flounder been biting?
I'd say outside of just a couple of the flounder we've picked up, it's been completely marsh bite. We've had the past 5 to 7 days, we've had the high tides, pretty close to sunrise, early morning while we're out there. And I've noticed when you get that high tide, if you get around these marshy areas where you have some of that kind of shorter green grass that has a lot of water in it, real flooded, we've been just picking apart the lines. And anywhere I can find like a little feeder creek or a drain dumping into a tidal creek or a tidal river, or anywhere that there's even just like a little pocket of grass, like maybe you have a little bit of a sandy area or something. That's been, the high percentage areas for us where we've been catching a lot of them. But at the same time, as we've just kind of been working down the lines, getting to those areas, we've been picking them up, in between too. So, and it's areas that years ago we used to catch a lot of them. But I haven't, like I said, I really haven't caught many there past 5 to 6 years. I kind of just gave up on them, and then just started picking them up left and right the past couple of weeks, and starting to kind of put together a little bit of a pattern. As far as the bait I've been using just an 1/8 ounce lead head jig head. And then I've been kind of switching in and out. The dirty boxer from Fishbites has been real good to us lately. And if I can't get a hold of those, I've been just using like the 5-inch gulp, the curl tail jigs. And I'm kind of favoring towards like the gulps. I've been picking up the pink and white kind of mixed color. The Fishbite dirty boxers, I've been trying to lean towards like the salt and pepper or the white color. And I've been just having a lot of success with those. And what's been promising is, we've been picking up the smaller ones and catching, some of those ones that we toss back, those, underslot ones. And then we've also been catching some real nice ones that we get to release too. So getting a healthy mix of, size and quantity. So it's been promising to see for sure.
Man, that's awesome to see. As far as technique goes, how are you working those artificials whenever you're picking apart those banks? Are you a hop drag, or are you just a straight dragger, or what's your method?
So I'm a hopper. Kind of how we've been setting up and what I do when I'm fishing these marsh lines. We get a little, we get a little spoiled in these kayaks. We can get right up against that grass and the super, super shallow stuff. And what I've noticed, just about every flounder we've caught this past week has literally been touching the grass, right there up against it. So kind of what I've been doing is, I get my kayak right up against the grass line, get right parallel to it, and I'm just start picking them apart, making long parallel casts. And the whole time I'm just doing a hop the whole way back, just hop, hop, hop. Honestly, I never really thought to try dragging it. I couldn't tell you why I didn't think of that, but I've just always kind of, thinking of like paddle tails and stuff when I'm working for redfish. I'm usually just doing a steady hop back. So that's kind of, it's been working for us. So if, the old, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So.
Amen. Yeah. The only reason I asked that is because, whenever fall time comes around, we do a lot of artificial flounder fishing with Captain Richard and Dylan Keene. And man, those guys are just so good. And it seems like they don't even move the bait. Like they literally just drag the bait like at the slowest speed. And I just suck at it. So I'm always trying to get better at flounder fishing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, don't take anything I have as an expert opinion, because I do not consider myself a flounder fisherman at all.
Sounds like you've been doing pretty good with them.
Yeah, it's been nice to have a few in the cooler to take home and eat, because that is by far my number one favorite fish to eat is a flounder for sure.
Well, man, that's a great report. We always enjoy having you on the podcast, and glad you guys have been getting some of those Alabama sleigh rides. I like that. I might steal that.
Man, I kind of want to go do that. That just seems like a fun. Hey, you go do that. Go hit the Waffle House.
Be done with it. Back having a nap by noon. I like that kind of thing.
Hey, it's perfect. Anytime y'all want to go, I know a guy that's got quite a few extra kayaks, so I think I can take care of you.
No doubt, take you up on that.
Heck yeah, I'm in. Man, that's a great report. Sounds like things are heating up or are hot right now. So if folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can either give me a call or a text at 251-408-2786. 2604. You can check me out on Fishing Chaos under Whistling Waters and check all my dates and rates and everything, or you can shoot me an email at kayaking.kennedy@gmail.com.
Awesome, man. We appreciate the report, and we look forward to hearing from you next time, man. Be safe and stay hydrated out there. It's hot.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you guys having me back on.
Thanks, Scott. Talk to you soon. All right, that wraps up another great segment from Captain Scott Kennedy with Whistling Waters Kayak Fishing and Outdoors. You guys take a quick break and check out a few of this week's great sponsors that bring you the free fishing report each week. That segment was brought to you by United Bank. United Bank knows what an important role agriculture plays in our local economy. At United Bank, they are here to support local farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness, including real loans for farmland, equipment loans, working lines of credit, and more. Truth is, they deeply value the contributions agriculture makes to our communities, and they help our local farmers build successful businesses. They want to see you succeed. Learn more at unitedbank.com or stop by any United Bank branch. United Bank, all loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. These ultra-light, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest images, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PDR Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness. Man, Angelo, we talked a little bit about it in the beginning of the show. You were talking about interest rates are kind of evening out a little bit. It seems like gas prices are kind of evening out too. Am I wrong on that? What are you guys seeing over there?
No, I mean, gas prices are evening out. You know, I know they approved another 0.75% interest rate hike, but like what people have to remember, that's short-term interest. And like what really affects mortgage rates is the treasury bond. And mortgage rates are like, you're almost selling futures on the treasury bond, and bonds are down 0.11% right now. So like we'll see. I mean, when you increase the short-term interest rate, you tend to you can see some increase on the long-term mortgage rates, but like they're already up some. Could we see a little bit more? Yeah, I think we could. I also think that like if they go up, they could also correct back down. And with that, like, you know, I'd say about 4 weeks ago, there was this like spook in the market. But what we're really seeing is kind of a more leveling out of the market. The people that felt like the sellers that felt like they missed out on the peak, and they did. You know, buyers are definitely starting to get more leverage. But what buyers need to recognize is that like the market's really leveled off. At one point, we had gone up to like 67 days of inventory one week. And what I mean by that is you look at in a 28-day cycle, how much property comes on the market versus how much property comes off the market. But like this week we pulled it, and this is always the previous weeks for like the week of July 18th. And if you look at like just say Baldwin County, there's 29 days of inventory, Orange Beach 35 days of inventory, and Gulf Shores 35 days of inventory. And so you would say like in a correlation.
Oh, so it's gone down a lot since last time we talked to you.
A lot. And it's been like that. So that's July 18th. July 11th was 30, 37, and 31. And July 4th, 38, 32, 47. June 27th, 34, 35, and 45. So like I always feel like, because I read all these articles and I imagine people that are like looking to buy or sell houses, they're probably reading articles and following the news. Well, like the news, what I hear is that like inventory is increasing and prices are falling. They're always lagging about 4 to 6 weeks behind of what's really happening. Like the analysts, the guys that are like looking at what's happening year over year, like what they're not really seeing without eyes on the ground or boots on the ground is that stuff that closed in June is mainly stuff that went under contract April and May.
Yeah, that
So
makes
it's not
sense.
like the greatest indicator. So like it's a lot better indicators if you were to talk to a real estate or mortgage professional and see what they're seeing. How busy are they? Like what was really interesting to me when we went through this little lull for like the first half of the month, like we produced 10 leads. In the second half of the month, we've already produced 20 in like a week and 3 days. So like you feel the velocity picking back up, but I'll leave with this, and this is a really kind of a cool stat. And look, I lean towards Baldwin County. We cover Mobile County, Dauphin Island, all the way to Panama City, but a majority of my
That's your
business
home,
is
that's
in
your home
Baldwin
waters.
County. Yeah, so but I can pull this for anywhere anybody wants to look. But when you look year over year, and I'll just do 2021 versus 2022, is Baldwin County year over year was down 24% in June closings. Orange Beach was down 11 and Gulf Shores was down 36%. Now, those are really examples of what happened in April and May. And second week of April, I can tell you, was probably like, if you were talking to somebody really in the know, they would tell you that prices get ready for downward pressures. I think we actually talked about it then. I would, if I was a buyer, I think we're getting close to leveling off. I think we're still seeing interest rates in the fives, which is historically a low interest rate.
Oh yeah.
All that stuff that we were seeing, these 2.75 and 3 and 4% interest rates. I mean, I don't know if we ever see that again. That was a unique moment in time where the government was really trying to stimulate the economy because of COVID. And then because of COVID, people were buying. And when I look at it, they were buying second homes and moving places. It was just a crazy time. We're going to start looking a lot like 2019 with evening out of inventory. I think July and August are typically slower months for sales. And I think that coupled with a little bit of fear from the media will put a little bit more downward pressure on pricing. If it was me and I was a buyer, I would probably wait to see what shakes out over the next 2 months. But I think we're going to hit the bottom pretty quickly and level out. I mean, unless you're somewhere like Huntsville where like there's just jobs pouring in and like there's a demand for housing because there's many people moving to the area. And Baldwin County will probably have a little bit of that as well. But like what you also got to remember, a lot of the driver in Baldwin County is Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, and those are wants and not necessarily haves. And so there's 1031 money flowing through the market, kind of buoying it up. That will dry out, especially in the second half of the year. I think we'll just get back to a level market, and that's kind of what the data is showing too. So, I mean, look, if you want to buy, I think you can be a little bit pickier, find something what you really want, and negotiate more, especially if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, look, you need to price right. There is no doubt. If you're not contracting relatively quickly, I think I said this last time, you're going to end up chasing a ball downhill. Real estate is like dating. If you're 45 and single, people wonder what the hell's wrong with you. If your house is sitting on the market for 6 months, same thing.
Right. Probably overpriced.
Overpriced.
And you may have said this in that, but just as a layman, what does it mean exactly? You're talking about, 60 plus days of inventory down to back around 30 again. What does that mean for us?
So
what is that indicative of?
On a normal market, like I guess perspective is really what you're asking about.
Right.
Normally we're sitting at 90 days, 120 days of inventory in just a normal, like even keeled market when something isn't out of balance, favoring sellers or buyers. That's what you see in inventory wise. Right now, if nothing else came on the market, the reality is in 2.5 months, we wouldn't have anything to sell. There's always stuff coming off. I think you were asking about my calculation. So the calculation is this. What we do is because we do this every week, you take the number of new active listings, new properties to market, houses, condos, lots, and you divide that by the number of properties that go what we call pending, but it's like properties that go under contract. Mm-hmm. So like, let's just say Baldwin County as a whole, for instance, in a 7-day stretch, they had 326 new properties come to market, and 315 of those went pending, giving you 29 days of inventory. So you take the actives, you divide them by the pendings or under contracts, and you multiply that number by 28 days. And I call it 28 day a month.
Sure.
Of it, So, that's almost exactly the amount of property that's coming on.
So it's still moving like crazy is what that means. Okay, I got
still moving. We went on a little hiccup, but it's I would say it's a really healthy market right now. Yeah. And interest rates, look, you're marrying the property, you're dating the interest rate.
Right.
Over the course of the next however many years, and there's some really nice 10-year arms out there. And if I was a buyer, I would look into those products, because I think over the course of the next 10 years, there'll be an opportunity to refinance into a lower interest rate. I'm not going to quote a rate because what I say, hey, I'm not a mortgage guy and I haven't looked at it today. The 10-year rate, the 10-year arms tend to be anywhere from a point to 2 points below a 30-year mortgage. Mm-hmm. And then, so you're dating that rate, and rates adjust down. I think they will at some point. Then you refinance into a 30
5 years. Right.
Yeah.
I get it. That makes sense.
I think if you're a buyer, there's still great opportunities. If I was a buyer, look, we're only selling 2 things here, and that's fear and greed. And man, fear is a motivator much more than greed. And so found somebody that can sell some fear to the other side. When it was a seller's market, you're selling fear to the buy side. You buy this, or the property is going to go up. When it's a buyer's market, hey, we're putting you this offer. You can take it, or you can just roll the dice, cross your fingers, and see what happens 2 months from now. I don't think that's going to be a good scenario for you. So, find somebody that can do that for you. And look, I'll also say this: a lot of realtors struggling right now. Make sure you get somebody that'll be honest with you, tell the truth about what you have and what you think the market is. It hurts me to tell my buyers that are cash to hold tight for a minute, but they'll come and pay me. They'll pay me down the road. Oh, yeah. I need to sell properties in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months from now. So
no doubt, man. And thank you for breaking down that days of inventory. That definitely makes more sense to me now. If folks want to get up with you and just pick your brain about this, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
It's real easy. I think it's hard to remember phone numbers and emails and all that stuff. My email is easy though. It's angelo@thecoastalconnection.com. You go to our website, thecoastalconnection.com. You just Google Angelo or The Coastal Connection. You'll pull up our website, and all our contacts and information is there. And you call that number, and you'll get either me or somebody on my staff, and we'll schedule an appointment, and we'll kind of run you through the process of where we, depending on what's your situation. I think it's real estate situational for people. So we're going to want to get to know you, what you're wanting to do, your long and short-term goals. See how that fits in. I mean, real estate is quite often most people's largest asset. So we take that very seriously, and we need to know kind of what you're thinking too, whether you're going to be here purchasing something to hold, or you're looking to purchase something because you're going to be in town for 2-3 years because you're in the military or the Coast Guard. Let's formulate a plan for that.
Man, I really appreciate that. It definitely makes sense. I always appreciate the real estate updates. But, we got to do what did you learn before we get out of here today, man? What'd you pick up from today's show? Anything in particular stick out to you?
Richard was talking about the scamp fishing and the slow pitch versus hardly catching anything on the croakers. And I had a friend that was literally out scamp fishing that same day, kind of in the same area I believe Richard was. And they had a bunch of live cigar minnows, and they blistered them as well. And so I was just kind of thinking, what was it about the croaker on Saturday that was not what those fish wanted? Because croakers to me, that's a great bait for grouper and snapper.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's better bait than a pinfish. If I had like hierarchy of baits, I think live cigar minnow is like, because it kicks hard. It's a really
little
easy
more
bait.
supercharged. That's why I like those Spanish sardines so much, man. We just call them crack. They're just crazy as hell. They're darty. They're always, like you say,
they're
kicking
flat.
like
They got a fair amount of flash to them.
Yep.
It's an easy bait for the fish to eat. But like, I was like, well, like, what was the correlation between cigar minnows and jigs? And I just wonder, like, the movement of the bait
flash and movement,
and the flash versus, was that what the fish wanted that day? And it's just interesting to me because scamps, those fish kind of move around. Like, some days you get like on a horseshoe or a salt dome, or the horseshoe rigs or salt domes, and you're just blasting them, and then you go back out there and it's like, there ain't nothing down.
Yep.
And so the same thing happens on these rocks that everybody fishes. Is like, some days you get out there and you can just smoke them on a slow pitch jig, and then the next day, I don't care what you drop down,
don't matter.
Cigar minnows, so slow pitch jigs, Spanish sardines, thread fins, nothing's working, right? Yeah. So I just, I wouldn't say it's what I learned, but like,
a takeaway. Bring it all.
A takeaway from it was like, hey, on this day, cigar minnows and slow pitch jigs were working and croakers weren't.
Yeah. Have it all. Give them a buffet. Just make sure you got bait.
Yep.
I like that one, man.
What about you? I mean, like, I think sometimes, we're doing this thing and it's like, what did you learn? Because we get, every once in a while you get, a complete nugget, but a lot of times fishing, you don't learn anything.
A lot of times there's a super aha moment. I would say probably what I picked up this week. Other than that, I feel like that's a great topic as well. What baits working that day? And also you were talking about that, the natural bottom and those fish moving around. A lot of times, man, you can move from, one little piece of fuzz on the bottom. You can move over 50 feet and then, show a little more fuzz and they'll be loaded up over there. Talking about just working your way down that natural bottom, Yeah. I would say one thing that I picked up or what was reminded of me was Scott talking about charging those schools of jacks. Kayak is just so much quieter. They don't have the displacement of the hull slapping.
Man.
You know what I mean? They're in there and they're stealthy. And I feel like Scott just kind of reminded me more of that. You're in there with them, man. In a boat can sometimes hinder you a little bit. And he was talking about being out there with that boat and, they were trying to do the same tactic of charging those jacks and it was not working because they were just charging them way offshore.
Well, and the other thing I was thinking about, like the flounder fishing, same thing. Like put his kayak right on the edge of that grass where like you're on a boat, you're casting from the boat to the bank. So you're fishing this little micro inch of space.
Yep.
And like, how many casts does that take? Versus, hey, I'm just going to pull my kayak right up here on the edge of the grass
and work it parallel
and cover these big swaths of area really quickly. I mean, I think that was key. I don't think anybody could catch those fish off of a boat efficiently.
I don't think so either. And that's a great point too. Yeah, that's way more efficient if you're casting, like you say, literally a 1/8-inch jig head, from the bank to the boat. You're covering this much, but being able to get up in there so stealthy, man, that's got to be deadly. That has to be the ticket.
Man, I actually think that's just a great, like, what did you learn? Like, as primarily a boat fisherman, like, how many times have we like spooked the fish that we could have caught?
Absolutely a lot, I would think. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. That segment was brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Often when a business is small, you miss the professionalism you get with larger companies. That's not the case with Fortified Roofing Pros. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. And also brought to you by the Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at outdooralabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check or any of the 2021 fishing seasons, please visit outdooralabama.com. Angelo, thanks for joining me today, man. It's always a pleasure. I like to have your fishing knowledge on the show, as well as your real estate knowledge and just your interview style in general. Just a great interviewer.
Well, man, I'll tell you, it looks like we'll be fishing together in a few weeks.
Heck yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Me too.
And I'll probably see you then.
Yep, I would think so, man. Let's pray for some good weather and some tight lines. I'll see you soon.
I do. Catch you later.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please make sure and subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to get that free AFCO sun protection mask promo code, and also to be added to our email list. And we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. Be safe out there. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.
And also brought to you by Bahio Sunglasses. See more, catch more. Experience the clearest lenses on the planet with Bahio Sunglasses. Try on a pair at your local retailer or check out BahioSunglasses.com to see for yourself. And also brought to you by Fishbites. Whether you are hitting the sand with a set rig using the traditional scent strips for pompano or fishing the flats or marshes for speckled trout, redfish, and flounder, Fishbites has something for you. Fishbites baits and lures are made with pride in the Sunshine State of the USA. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits at fishbites.com. Also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by BoatersList.com. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Sign up at BoatersList.com to find a company to work with on your next boat project. And also brought to you by KillerDock. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to see more. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com.